Education debt doesn't tell the whole story. There are really other factors and costs that you have to consider.
Exactly. And what we know is that the median amount of debt from the class of 2012 was $170,000. Now, 9 out of every 10 left with education debt. But this $170,000, like you say, that doesn't tell the whole story. The borrowers of that debt ended up repaying more. And here's an example of how much more. For somebody who borrowed original amount of $170,000, they're in school for, let's say, 4 years and a 6-month grace period. And during that time, how I like to say it is interest is accruing on the unsubsidized loans, and it's accruing off to the side, let's say in a bucket. And ultimately what's going to happen is that bucket's going to be poured into the original balance. And this process is called capitalization. And the result of it is that the borrower, the medical student or graduate, now owes more. As a medical resident, they don't owe $170,000, they owe well over $190,000.
Does that capitalization happen right when they graduate?
You know, good question, and that's a question I get often from medical students as they're about to graduate, is when is this going to happen to my debt? And I think the best answer is that every servicer of loans has their own policy on when the capitalization will occur. And I think the next question will be, well, what's a servicer? And the servicer is the manager of your student loans. And each loan has a servicer. They're your point of contact. You send your payments, you change your address with them, and really your servicer has their policy on when your loans will capitalize. So if you're wondering when your debt will capitalize, it's best to contact your servicer.
Can you tell me a little bit more about the grace period?
You know, grace, I mentioned that. Grace is this wonderful thing that bridges the loans from being in school to being in repayment. And it varies from 6 to 9 months, and often the question comes up, well, how long is my grace period on my loans? And I would say that again is another question for a servicer. They can best answer whether your loans have or don't have a grace period, because mind you, some loans do not have a grace period. So really, if you're looking to find out the timing of when your loans go into repayment, ask your servicer.
Let's review some of that capitalization again. We talked about Dr. Median, who borrowed $170,000, and you pointed out, right, that after the capitalization, it would be $195,000 that they have to repay. Now, if she had borrowed less, it would be a little bit less. If she borrows more, it's going to be more, and it could be close to $300,000, just depending on what she's borrowed. So whatever Dr. Median borrowed, she has to repay a certain amount, and she's going to have to make a choice of how to address that during residency. The two common choices are postponing or paying. Nicole, what do you find most people have done?
You know, when a student is graduating or a resident's a new resident, this is a part of life they've never been in. They've never done this before. They don't know what it's going to look like. They don't know what it's going to cost. And so the most comfortable decision is to choose to postpone payments. And I will add, though, that those who say they're going to postpone or are postponing, they do so with the intention, or they communicate this, that they're going to make voluntary payments when they can.
Right.
It's a really good idea to do that.
Okay. Do they have to make this choice right when they graduate?
You know, it's a good idea to make this choice at least 30 days before they graduate, or 30 days before the grace period is over. Those are good timings to have decisions made. But worst case, if somebody gets down the path and realize they chose the wrong way to go, they simply contact the servicer and change the direction. And really, the fact of the matter is this: there's a lot of flexibility when it comes to repaying student loans during residency or postponing loans during residency.